Good evening, everyone. My name is Jacqui Owen, and I'm the Relationship Manager at the College of Law for Queensland, and I'm joined by my lovely colleague, Jennifer Sturgis. She's also based in Brisbane. She's coming to you from her lovely home in St Lucia in Brisbane, and I am in my home office in Carindale in Brisbane. So we're really loving being able to join you all in Cairns. Jen and I have presented in this room. You should see it. It's a wonderful room, really lovely technology and new facilities. So it is a little bit of a shame we can't be there in person, but we're really grateful to be joining you today. So we're here to talk about practical legal training at the College of Law. And Jen, we've got quite a lot of people in the room who are looking to start PLT reasonably soon, maybe between now and January. They're in their final few weeks or final semester at JCU. There's some people that are in their penultimate year, and then there's a couple of people in second year as well. But most people are probably finishing in the next semester, but we do have a little bit of a mix. And I do love it when people come and hear this presentation earlier on in their course, because you do need to hear things a couple of times to understand all the different bits. But of course, if ever you are not sure about anything, you can just get in touch. That's not a problem. So I'm going to share my screen here, flick those slides onto, and I hope I think you can. I can see the screen behind Brenda, so I can see that it's up. So excellent. Okay, so let's go through all the details. So probably everyone realizes that it's not enough just to have a law degree to call yourself a lawyer or a solicitor. And in fact, you can get yourself into a little bit of trouble if you're graduating from law school and then changing your title to lawyer without going through the practical legal training process and also the admissions process. So that's just a little bit of a by the by. It's even not really a good idea to call yourself a graduate lawyer, because that still sort of might give the impression that you are an admitted practitioner. So just be careful with that and find some sort of a job description before admission that does not indicate that you're a legal practitioner. That is a special thing saved for when you've had your admission ceremony. And there was one very recently in the last week in Cairns. So there's a few more new lawyers floating around the neighbourhood as we speak in Cairns. So you do, of course, need that all-important law degree, but then you will also do your practical legal training at the College of Law, and you will be awarded with a graduate diploma of legal practice, which is an extra qualification, and you bring both of those qualifications through to the admissions board, or the admissions board in whatever state that you're wanting to practice in. But if it's Queensland, it's the Queensland, the legal LPOB, Legal Practitioners Admissions Board, Queensland. And you go through that process, you prove that you're a fit and proper person, and then there will be a ceremony in Cairns, and someone will stand up and move your admission into the legal practice. You'll stand up. There's an oath that the whole group says in unison, and then you come out and sign the roll of solicitors, and that's when it's all official. You will then apply for your practicing certificate through the practitioners, the admissions board as well, and then that's when you can change that job title to lawyer. So just make sure that it's all done in that order. So it's a very exciting day. It's a really special ceremony, and I do encourage you all to maybe take the day off and maybe throw in a lovely lunch with those that have supported you along the journey. So PLT, what's it all about? It's exactly what it sounds like. It's the practical skills on top of your law degree. So quite often at law school, you're learning the theoretical knowledge of the law, and you're learning about the law, you're learning the law, but then we are adding, a bit like baking a cake, we take those ingredients and we mix them with the practical skills that you need to actually go into an entry-level position and do that job competently and confidently as well. So we don't want you doing some things for the first time actually in the role. PLT is very much a safe place to practice those skills, practice those actions. You'll receive feedback and guidance along the way from your lecturers, including Jen and the rest of our team, and then you can take that feedback and use it to sort of sharpen your skills and hone your skills, so that when you are in that first job, you hopefully know what you're doing. So it's all about, literally getting you on your feet, being a lawyer, but in that practice environment, which is pretty cool. So we sort of like to say it's the closest thing to practicing law without actually practicing the law. But you've got that supportive environment to do it in. So when can you start? So this is a question we do get quite a lot. So most people will, be in Brenda's position. They'll have finished their law degree, and then they'll be coming into practical legal training as the next step. Sometimes people have a little break. Sometimes they have their last exam on Friday and start with us on Monday. It's absolutely your choice. However, you can come in to PLT in your last semester if you have completed your Priestley 11 and only have 2 electives remaining, so either 1 or 2. And sometimes people have sort of maybe moved around between full-time and part-time. They might have done some summer subjects, and they finish all the Priestleys and they just have a couple left to do, and they sort of think, oh, well, I might as well go ahead and get started. You do have to apply to the admissions board for permission. It's pretty much a standard process, and once you've got the permission, you can start that a little bit earlier with the College of Law. So that's an option for some of you maybe as well. Okay, let's divide and conquer, I reckon we have a talk about the 3 different parts of PLT. So let's just imagine that it's first day of PLT and you're really excited, and in your head, superimpose your name at the top of these 3 checkboxes. So the parts of the program that you need to get through are 1, coursework, 2, work experience, and 3, continuing professional education. So part 1, part 2, part 3, and we'll talk about those individually. So by the end of the course, so by the course completion date or shortly thereafter, you do have a little bit of time afterwards if you need it or if you choose to take that time. And you need to check off coursework, you need to check off work experience, and then you also need to check off continuing professional education. So let's break down those 3 bits and talk about it a little bit further with Jen as well. So what do you actually do in PLT? You'll do 5 compulsory subjects and 2 electives, and those are of course your choice of what you want to do in terms of the electives, and where you're working, who you're working for, what sort of where your passion is, where you think you might want to end up, and you'll put all that together and that becomes your program. The subjects might sound pretty close to what you've done at uni, but they're the practical and also the postgraduate level of those subjects. So you might have learned all about property law in a similar sounding subject at university, but then in this subject, what we'll do is you will be acting in a mock matter for someone either buying or selling a property, and you'll have to actually put together the documents for that transaction, for that purchase or sale, and you will be submitting them to your boss, who's actually your lecturer, and you'll be receiving feedback on that process. So you'll actually be doing those, doing the practical side of that subject. And throughout all the subjects, there's always an ethics component, which is a little bit of a hot tip, and you'll be sort of writing documents and submitting documents as if you were working for your boss / your lecturer, and doing the practical side of the law. So that's really exciting to a lot of people. They've come out of university where they might not have had too much of the practical skills, and they find PLT very, very different to uni, and they find it closer to the work environment, and they're quite excited to be doing the law rather than learning the law. So when you are working as an entry-level lawyer, that's what will happen in real life. Your boss will say, hey, I need you to do these documents for that matter. Here's a file, do this for this file. So we're trying to simulate the world of work. It also is quite, and we'll show you a timetable shortly, pretty much, well, it's probably before week 1. I think it's the week before, but certainly on day 1, we'll be given a timetable, shown the timetable when everything is due. And it's a little bit different to uni in that and I'm sure none of you here would do this, you can't leave it all to the last minute and get your work in at the end. You have to be doing certain tasks and certain activities every week. So it's a bit more like work. So you can't sort of swan around for 28 days of the month and then whack everything in before the 30th or the 31st. You have to actually be hitting those goals throughout the month. So that's a little bit how PLT is a bit more similar to the world of work. So we have already touched on this, but we have a full-time option and a part-time option. If you are working, we do recommend studying with us part-time, because again, it's a bit more similar to work rather than, and it has to be done consistently throughout those 30 weeks. And week 1 is full-time for everyone, and that's face-to-face in an intensive situation, whether it's face-to-face in a lovely room at JCU, much like you're sitting in this evening, or whether it's face-to-face via a Zoom room. That we have to have your undivided attention for Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, that week 1, whether you are full-time or a part-time student. Then you'll branch off into still working online, but it's not, you don't have to be, you're not live anywhere. You're fitting, it's very flexible, fitting the course in and around the rest of your life, whether that's work or family, sporting commitments, or all of the above. You will do your work when and how it's suitable to you, obviously submitting everything by the due date. So 15 weeks full-time and 30 weeks part-time after that full-time face-to-face week. So that's what we may hopefully be coming to Cairns to teach. If not, it will be online. Did we have a question, Brenda?
Yeah, we do have a question.
Yes.
Michael. International students do part-time?
International students.
Can international students do part-time?
I don't
think so. We might have to check with.
Yeah, I don't think they can, Jacqui. But
I don't think they can either. They used to have to do it in person in Sydney because with student visas, online programs weren't allowed. I don't know what the rules are with COVID though, Brenda. So at the last slide, I've got a number for our student services and an email from our student services team. So we can certainly check in with them and just see what's happening. Because obviously flying to Sydney, and you can fly to Sydney and turn up at the College of Law, but they're not there anyway. So I'm not. I think there might be some workarounds, but I think they have to do the full-time course.
I'm pretty sure that you have to do it full-time and on campus, but I don't know.
On campus isn't happening at the moment though.
No.
Okay, so that's
we can check on that. For sure. We can check with student services tomorrow. I'll send them an email tonight. Good question though. Not sure of the answers. I'm sorry. But we can find out. We know who to ask. Okay, so this is what we were talking before. At the moment, but before COVID, that 1 week was always face-to-face, twice a year in Cairns at the end of November and at the end of June. We would fly Jen or Anita or Graham or Margaret or one of our lovely lecturers up there. They would be there for the week. We'd book a room at JCU and everyone would come and do that week 1 face-to-face. Then, of course, COVID hit and we quickly moved that week 1 onto a Zoom platform just for week 1. And so it has been good in that people living outside of the Brisbane, not within driving distance of Brisbane, have been able to do any course they want. So all of a sudden, you guys who only had 2 courses available throughout the year had the whole 30 available to do, so that was really cool. That's continuing at the moment into sort of at least through to February, March, I believe, playing out on a month-by-month basis. There may be a few face-to-face in Brisbane, but we're not sure. So you guys are lucky in that you do have the choice at the moment of face-to-face or fully online if you choose to do one of the online courses. However, there does, of course, the provision is we do, of course, have to have that around the 10 registered for that to go ahead, just because, as Jen will tell you, having 2 or 3 people in a workshop, it's really hard to have that you're not going to have a really good experience with only small numbers, because it's very, very much sort of activity based, and it's hard to do activities with a small number of students. So if you are keen, get registered. Okay, so we've talked about this. It's very much about practical skills to give you the confidence and the confidence to step out as an entry-level lawyer. We've got lots of lovely lecturers all over Queensland. They're all either previous practicing lawyers or current practicing lawyers, and they work for us part-time as well. We've got lawyers, barristers, tribunal members, mediators, all sorts of people in pretty much many different jobs within the law. So, and they're all very approachable and lovely, and are there to get you through the program. I don't need to tell you what a Zoom classroom looks like, but this was a very first group in the days when we used to get dressed up to go on Zoom. But it is, of course, if you are on Zoom, I think there's one guy in there with suspenders looking very suave. I wonder what he's wearing for Zoom meetings these days, a year and a half later. So it is, of course, even if you are online via Zoom, important to still dress as if you are coming into a professional environment. So I might hand over to Jen, and we're actually going to have a look at, talk about how each subject is broken down into tasks and activities. Also, there's a quiz at the end, which tells us that you're ready to sit the final assessment, and Jen might talk about how that assessment is different to university as well, and how it does actually mimic the world of work. So I'll pop myself on mute, and over to you, Jen.
Thank you, Jacqui. Thank you, everybody. Yes, I won't take up too much of your time, but I think most people, when they're thinking about a PLT course and where they're going to do it, and and when they're going to do it, because obviously it requires a level of commitment, want to know something about how the course works and how the assessment works. So, as Jacqui said, this is somewhat different to university. I guess it's really a lot different, and it does require. I always say to everybody, I don't think the College of Law course is hard. I'm not trying to lull you into false sense of security and say it's a lay down was there, but you obviously have to do work. But it requires a consistent effort throughout the 15 or 30 weeks, because what we do is, Jacqui just showed you the subjects that you have to do. We do subjects one by one. So, at uni, you might be doing 3 or 4 subjects at once. We do one subject. We start off after the first week, where we do face-to-face. We start off with ethics and professional responsibility. We complete that subject, doing the tasks and activities required, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. Then we move on to do the assessment, move on to civil litigation, do the assessment, move on to property, and that sort of thing. So they're done one by one. You can't sit the assessment for each subject unless you've done all these tasks and activities. So if you don't keep up, you haven't done the tasks, you can't do the assessment. We then move on to the next subject, and it makes it very difficult to catch up. As far as the subjects themselves are concerned, as I said, the first subject you'll start with is ethics and professional responsibility. What you will do when you start online is that, depending upon whether you go full-time or part-time, will depend upon how many tasks that you've got to hand in per week. If you're full-time, it's on average 2 per week. Sometimes it's 3. But it's usually a minimum of 2. If you're in the part-time course, it goes at half the pace. So usually it's 1 per week. And as Jacqui said, it's totally up to you, but we would advise people that are working full-time to do the part-time course, because the full-time course is, you might think, 2 tasks a week, big deal. Some of those do take a bit of time. So we would certainly suggest, if you're working full-time, that you take the part-time course. So as Jacqui also said, at the beginning of the course, I think, in fact, you've got access to the course a week before it begins. You'll be able to access the timetable. And the timetable will set out for the whole 15 or 30 weeks when every task or activity is due. It will set out when the assessments, I'm going to talk to you about those in a minute, when the assessment, that thing. So you will know when everything is due. So what you'll have to do when the timetable tells you that a task falls due, you will go to that subject, you will open the subject up, you will be reminded, the Canvas Learning Portal, when you open it up, it will remind you what you've got coming up this week, what you've got overdue. You'll click onto the task, and all the tasks are fairly similar in that you'll be usually required to look at some sort of a file. Take, for example, civil litigation, which is the second subject we do. We do a sort of a fairly straightforward breach of contract matter. And some of the tasks are, you open up the file, you read it, the client says, well, you know, someone ordered some goods for them and didn't pay for it. The first task is, for example, to send them a letter of advice, and you've got to cover things like, you know, limitation periods, what damages they can expect to get, you know, whether there are any problems with the claim, whether it's a matter that perhaps should be negotiated or something like that, what the litigation steps are. So you'll do that. And then the next task, you'll be required to prepare the claim and statement of claim. So each task builds on each other. So that's another reason for not getting behind, because if you get behind and you submit them all at once, if you do that, you're not going to get the benefit of getting the feedback on the previous activity before you move on to the next activity. So you do well, we've got them split up into tasks and activities. For example, this is a civil litigation. There are 3 tasks involved in that course, but each task is then broken up into 3 activities. So task 1 has 3 activities. I think task 2 has got 2 or 3 activities, and task 3's got 1 activity. So tasks and activities, I sort of use them interchangeably. But so you look online, you open it up, you prepare the task, and then you submit it in accordance with the timetable. All of the information you need to complete that task is on the learning portal. So you don't have to go around looking for other things, digging things up yourself. So you're not going to be wasting time doing that. There are resources we point you to for each of the activities. So if you've never drawn a claim and statement of claim, you don't have to sit there and think, oh gosh, I've never done it before. You know, this is impossible. There are resources we point you to. There are quizzes that you do. We can't make you do them, but we strongly suggest you do, which take you through how to do a claim, for example, step by step. So you're not just out there in the ether without anything and you've got to work it out yourself. There are examples of basically everything that you've got to do. If you've got to do a letter of advice, there's an example letter of advice. There are pro formas and things like that. We also have College of Law practice papers, which are really the textbooks of the College of Law, prepared by, written by lecturers, outside experts and things like that. And they are both online, and if you so desire, you can request hard copies of them as well. When you start at the College of Law, you'll be asked if you want a hard copy, and they will send it to you if you want. And that's got a lot of useful information as well that should help you to complete the tasks and activities. So I don't think now they require some commitment, obviously, but provided you look at all the material, read the file and, you know, have a real go at it, you shouldn't have too much difficulty. When you hand a task in, we might go to that one on feedback, Jacqui, yes, thank you. When you hand a task in at the College of Law, you're not just going to get generic feedback back. A lecturer is actually going to look at your activity and they're going to give you feedback. And that's just an example of some of the feedback you get. It comes in various forms. Some lecturers like to give oral feedback recorded, but I think most students prefer written feedback, because then they can download that and take it with them to the assessment, which I'll in a minute, because all of our assessments are open book. So you will get feedback specifically targeted at you, and you know it'll be in response to what you've handed in. We will tell you whether what you've handed in is satisfactory or not satisfactory. If it's not satisfactory, we will point you in the right direction and ask you to resubmit it, because we have to get your completion certificate, you have to have completed all aspects of the course to a satisfactory standard. But as I said, if you're a bit lost, don't worry, you will get guidance from the lecturer. And once you have completed everything satisfactorily, you will be allowed to assessment. With the compulsory subjects, those 5 subjects, there's one other step in between. Once you've handed in all the activities, you also have to do a multiple choice test and get 50%. We're not trying to be mean to you to do that, to put you through torture, but it's to help you gauge where you are at the subject. So if you're only getting 10% in the multiple choice test, you're probably not really ready to sit the assessment. You need to do some more work. So you must get 50%. If you don't get 50%, you can just keep doing the tests until you get 50%. And once you've done all of your activities, and once you've done the multiple choice test, you will then be allowed to sit the assessment. Now, as far as the assessment is concerned, it is, does everyone know, you probably won't be aware, but some of you might be, that the assessment that we do at the College of Law, it's all oral assessment. Are people aware of that?
No.
No. Now, look, don't be put off by that. I actually think it is better than sitting there writing screeds of things. Once again, as Jacqui said, we're trying to mimic, practice. And what we try to do is, we have, for example, in a file, a memo saying, can you do this? Or can you look at this contract? And, from the partner, and saying, can you please write me a memo about, this other in the contract, whether there's this term or that term, what changes you'd make, and that sort of thing. And what happens when you do the oral assessment is, it's largely, not entirely, but it is largely based on those tasks. So you've done those tasks. What the oral assessment is really a form of a discussion between the lecturer and the student about the tasks they've prepared. So in other words, if you have done the tasks, you understand why you've done what you've done. For example, with civil litigation, you're asked to commence proceedings. If you've determined that they've got to be commenced in the magistrate's court, there must be a reason that you've done that. So the assessor might say, well, you've commenced them in the magistrate's court. Why did you do that? And then you might say, well, because the claim for damages was less than $150,000 or whatever it was. So it's really just a discussion about the work you've already done. So as I said, if you've done the work, you've handed it in, you've considered the feedback from the lecturer, you shouldn't have too much difficulty doing the oral assessment. It's really a chat, and it takes about 50 minutes or something like that, which once you get going isn't really long. With the electives, it's a bit shorter than that. It's about half an hour. So they're slightly smaller subjects. But that is the oral assessment. And it is worth 100% of your marks. So you'll be assessed out of 100. You don't actually get marks for the tasks and activities that you hand in. You just have to complete them to a satisfactory standard in order to do the assessment.
Mm-hmm.
Has anyone got any questions about that?
How many times can you set the assessment?
How many times can you sit the assessments?
Oh, well, that's a good question.
Yeah. Well, you can sit there. So let's say you fail, which I'm sure none of you will, but let's say you do fail. You can book in to redo the assessment straight away. That's no problem. If you failed it twice, which I've got to be honest, very few people do. If you failed it twice, you can sit it a third time. But what we do is we won't let you just automatically resit it. The reason, once again, is we're not trying to be mean, but we want to make sure if you're going to sit it again, that you're going to pass. So what will have to happen is that you'll have to have a bit of a, the lecturer will ask you to go back and do your study, refresh, go over everything again. Then they'll ask you have to meet with the lecturer, and the lecturer will do some, will attempt, to assess where you are. And if the lecturer thinks that you are ready to do the assessment, it seems like you've got a fairly good handle on things, you will have to make an application, which is really just a formality, to our academic committee saying, I failed twice, I want to sit it again, I feel like I'm ready. And the lecturer will have to, in order for you to be able to sit it, they'll have to support you and say, yes, I think this person's, I've spoken to them, we've been through the material, I think they're ready to resit. As I said, it's a little bit of it's really just not really a rigmarole, but it's just the whole point of it is to stop people just failing, resitting without really, we don't want people sitting if they've got no chance of passing. So that's all that is. So look, you can sit it as many times as you like, but you can certainly do it twice without having to sort of consult anybody. Does that sort of help?
One more question.
Yep.
In regards to like the satisfactory or not, do you just redo the task a million times until you get a satisfactory, or is it a limited amount on that as well as the assessment?
Did you hear that, Jen?
Yes, I think you said about how many times can you do the task?
Yes.
Look, yes, I guess theoretically you could do it a million times, but look, what normally happens is, most people, the second time they will hand it in, it will be fine because the lecturer gives them feedback and points them in the right direction. Like, for example, if I'm doing property and someone has to give an advice on a contract or something like that, and they've totally missed it, I sort of say to them, go back and look at, I make them go back and look at the clause, but I sort of say, go back and look at this clause, that sort of thing. So we do point people in the right direction. Sometimes people have to hand it in a third time, but yes, technically there is no limit, but it's usually, you might not be asked to resubmit, you'll resubmit it a second time. Occasionally it's a third time, but that would be rare.
Thanks. And with the assessment, Jen, is it the oral assessments, did you say a 50% pass mark on those?
It's 50%, so you will get, correct, yes, so you'll get a pass, a credit, a distinction, high distinction, just like you would at uni. But it is solely based on that oral assessment. But I can't reiterate to people, don't be afraid of that. As I said, of course it's an assessment, but it's fairly casual. Lecturers are not trying to trip you up. They're really not. A lot of it is based on the task. So as I repeat, if you have done your tasks, you understand why you've done what you've done in your tasks, you've considered the lecturer feedback, you shouldn't have too much difficulty. Mm-hmm. But you've got to keep up.
Yeah.
So most of the time, by the time people have done that first oral assessment, they relax into them a lot more because they're like, oh, okay. So just think about it this way: if your boss in a work situation is going to say to you, oh, where are you up to on that matter? Yep. They're not going to say, can you please summarize that into a 2,000 word essay and hand it into me in 3 weeks on Friday? They're going to say, come in here and chat to me about that. So just pretend that Jen is your supervising solicitor, and she's saying, come and explain to me what you've done and why you've done it. And that's the chat. It really is, that's the chat. So if you're familiar with obviously doing the tasks and activities thoroughly, you'll have no problem. Sorry, Jen, what were you going to say there?
Yeah, it is. It really is like that. For example, once again, we've got in property, we've got files where someone comes in there buying a property, and they're wanting to know about the contract. And sometimes we say the partner will, in the file, the partner sends a memo going, can you look into this for me? Can you look into that for me? So it's really like you going to the partner's office and the partner's going, well, what about this? What about that clause of the contract? What if they want to get out of it? Can they assign the lease or something like that? That sort of thing. And so as I said, we're not trying to trip people up. We're really not. We're just trying to sort of test their knowledge, largely based upon the tasks.
Just another question. Sorry.
Yes.
So for the oral assessment, can we take notes to that assessment, or is it just purely ourselves?
No, it's open book. You can take all your stuff with you.
You can take whatever you like with you. Yes, you can take whatever you like with you into it. But just be aware, when we sort of say, people say, oh, 50 minutes, but we're doing the whole subject in 50 minutes. So you haven't got, as you'd probably know in open book exams you haven't got time to fiddle around. So you do have to know the work. Mm-hmm. And I think Jacquie's just putting up on the screen. I think I referred before, there's a lot of different resources on the learning portal. As I said, you shouldn't have to go anywhere else. That's sort of the beauty of it. So if you go on holidays, new PLT, it's all right there. As part of civil litigation, as part of your tasks, you've got to prepare an affidavit and an application for an interlocutory application. That's an application in the course of the proceedings. You know, you're asking for further and better particulars or something like that, or, you know, further and better disclosure or something like that. So you have to do that, prepare those documents as part of the tasks in civil litigation. And then you have to actually do that application at your assessment, and you'll get marks for that. Here's an example of, we cover that when we do the first week as well, but you'll see there's videos, there's all sorts of materials online, and here's a video of people doing an application. So if you're sitting there and think, gee, you know, it was 10 weeks ago that I went to the workshop and I'm not really sure what I'm doing in terms of, you know, an interlocutory application, you can just look on the learning portal and there it is, people doing it, so you can observe what they're doing. So
Absolutely.
yeah, there's all sorts of stuff on the learning portal.
So basically, to summarize, you receive your instructions from your manager, which is in the form of the question and the activity and the tasks. Then you will have access to all the resources that you need to do that activity and task through the learning portal. You don't have to run off to a law library, go and find any other, Google anything. In fact, it's probably best to stay away from Google sometimes. Just go with the resources that are provided. They are very detailed, and there's everything that you could need. Then this is the only bit, and if you're not sure, you know, ask for further guidance from your lecturer. Step 3 is the only one we can't actually do for you or help you with. You're actually doing the task, you submit that, you gain your feedback. If it's not satisfactory, then you will put that feedback back into your work, polish it up a bit more, and then resubmit it. And as Jen said, usually people, if they do have to resubmit, the second time is fine. Occasionally, very, very occasionally, it's a third time, and you can seek that guidance from your lecturer. Once you get to all those tasks and activities are done to a satisfactory level, you'll then sit a quiz to say, that tells us that you're ready to set that oral assessment, and then you'll sit the oral assessment and you book in. So basically it's like, okay, here's the day that subject for you is being assessed, or it might be over a couple of days, and then you'll book in, you'll basically just book in through the system. And so if, you know, 9 o'clock in the morning suits you the best, then that's the time you book. So pretty much that's how the assessment goes. And as you can see, we've got very lovely, approachable, friendly lecturers who have many, many years of experience behind them, and they're there to get you through that subject. So any more questions about the coursework before we move on to checkbox 2, which is work experience?
No, looks like we're all okay.
Can I just say this? I think, Jacqui, I won't hold things up, but I think you will find, and I'm not just saying this because I work at the College of Law, I think you will find, you know, once you leave uni and you're working, and some people have got family commitments, the College of Law is pretty flexible and pretty understanding as well. So, you know, even though things are in the calendar, you know, people sort of chop and change things all the time. So it is, you will find it a super flexible course.
Yeah, just keep in touch. So if something's come up at work or in your family situation, the first thing you would do would be to get in touch with the person that's mentoring you through that subject as your lecturer, and you'd say, hey Jen, I've actually got to go to court on Friday. I can't sit my assessment that day. What should we do? And then we've got catch-up days, and or you might have some activities due, and Jen might say, look, you know, could you get them in by close of business Tuesday? Yeah. And we basically work on a case-by-case basis to get you through the course.
It is best to stick to the timetable, because once you start getting a week behind and 2 weeks behind, that's where people, you know, sort of fall down. They get too far away. But things sometimes are unavoidable. And as I said, you'll find people. I challenge you to find an institution or that's more flexible than the College of Law.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And well, you know, there's always a workaround, and don't think that if you're asking for a bit of an extension or some flexibility that you are not the first person to ever be in most situations we've come across before. So you're not the first person to ask, and we can always find a solution. So yes, it is very flexible as well. So it is designed to sort of work in around work. Okay, so that's coursework. That's that first checkbox, and I am aware of the time, so I'll run you through work experience. So we've got 3 options for you. So we've got a standard work experience format, which is 75 days of work experience. Then you will do a reflective journal just on the final 15 days, and then that will be your work experience taken care of. Or you might choose to do a short format, which is 15 days of work experience, but then you add on another subject, which is the clinical experience module. Or, and those are the 2 options we've always had. But then, of course, COVID has brought in a third option, which is our practice component, which is 0 days of work experience, plus a mentored body of work called the in-practice component. So I'll just go through those in a little bit more detail. If you are coming to us, so those of you who are in 2nd year or 3rd year and you're coming to us in a little bit down the track, the in-practice component will hopefully not be available. And I say that not to be mean, but to say that means COVID's over and well in our rear vision mirror, and we don't have to have that option. Actually, the in-practice components demand has dropped, which is a good sign. It means that opportunities and positions and work experience is on the increase. So that sort of, we had high numbers at the beginning of COVID, and then demand for that slowly been dropping as the work experience opportunities, PLT placements, graduate roles back on the increase. So that's actually a really good sign. So first of all, if you choose to do the standard format, which is 75 days of work experience, the really great news is that if you have been working in any sort of a legal role that meets the rules of work experience, you can actually claim 60 of those 75 days up to 2 years prior to starting your PLT. So let's just say that you were coming to us November this year. If you can think back to November 2019, when the word COVID, we had never even heard of it. I was just about to jet off to Norway to see the Northern Lights, and who can even imagine being on an aeroplane or in crowds of fellow tourists at this time? But anyway, that was the world back then. But if you can find 60 days between now and then, you can retrospectively claim them, and you just need to do the final 15 days during or in the 2 years after your PLT coursework. So as you can see, you've actually got 4 years to get that done. But a lot of you might be going, oh, wow, you know, I've actually already got some. So that's really cool. And then you would do
Sorry,
a...
Jacqui,
Yes?
just a question.
Yes.
Positions involve as work experience assistant, receptionist, paralegal, any of the things that don't require a law degree. What type of work experience is classed under that?
Great question. Okay, so admin positions don't count, but definitely paralegal, clerks, judges, associate sort of roles. So it's not roles. Of course, you're not giving legal advice because you're not admitted, because you're doing PLT, and that's not allowed. But you are kind of a cog in the machine that is doing that legal process. So what we're looking to see is that, and the rules are very broad, because you know, for as many students that might be in your cohort, you'll all be doing different jobs. So we're looking to see that you've had used a file management system. We're looking to see that you have done legal research. We're looking to see that you've dealt with clients, and we're looking to see that you have drafted some documents. So if you're sitting on the front desk welcoming people and assigning work and sort of doing the admin side of things, even if it's in a law firm, that won't count. But if you are working as in sort of more paralegal role, ticking those 4 boxes, then yes, it will count.
So can you get an assessment?
Yes.
from
Absolutely.
college.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and that's the best way. So Jen and I aren't qualified, and no one cares about our opinion anyway, to say yes or no. Sometimes we get pushed for people to say, I just want to know, will that count? Should I put in a form? I'm like, you know what? I could say yes. And the powers that be at the College of Law, because, you know, I'm not authorised to say yes. They won't even care what Jacqui or Jen thinks. But yes, you can. You can actually fill in forms now. So on our website, and I can show you them if you like afterwards. But if you go to collaw.edu.au/downloads with a S on the end, you'll see all the forms, and there's actually, and you can have as many jobs as you want. So let's just say you did 20 days here, 20 days there, 20 days here across different holidays. You can actually, for 3 different employers, you can actually put in a set of forms for each employer and have those all add up. So there's a form that says, so it's an application for approval for work experience. You can do that retrospectively. And that just says, hey, college, this is where I'm working. This is the role I'm doing, and this is who's supervising me. And then when you finish the allocated days there, so let's just say it was a 20-day placement, you get to day 20, you fill out a form. Oh, sorry, you sign that form and your supervisor signs that application form. And then you fill out a declaration at the end. And that's to say, hey, college, I've finished. You sign it, your supervisor signs it. And then you email that in. Now, let's just say you are in 3rd year and you've got some work experience lined up for this Christmas break. If that is going to be within 2 years of you starting college, and most likely, actually get your forms filled out and sent into college as you go, rather than getting like a year and a half down the track or a year down the track going, oh, okay, how do, like, will they remember me? Sometimes it's quite awkward to go back that year and a half if you haven't been there the whole time. Obviously, if it's an ongoing role, that's different. They might not remember, well, they might remember you, but they might not really remember your work. They might have had another 10 students in or 20 students in since then, and they might not be comfortable signing it off. But you can actually get those forms filled out, send them into college, and they'll just sit on your profile. So you're not enrolling in the course, you're not, you know, signing away to do college. They're just sitting there just in case, so that when you do come to college, you don't have to pay any money or do anything like that. So let's just say that Brenda sent some forms in now. She's coming to us in 6 months. They would just be Brenda's profile there, those 3 check boxes underneath unchecked, but then underneath would just be the forms sitting there, and someone would have done something in the system to say that Brenda has 30 days accounted for. Oh, here's another 20 because she's done that and then sent another set. So some people get to day 1 of their course and they've already got 60 days signed off. So let us store that data, and you don't need to worry about where you've put the forms around your house. So you can certainly do that as you go. But as long as...
Just another question.
Yes.
In regards to work experience, probably a very straightforward answer, but does it have to be paid or can it be voluntary?
Both. Good question. Both.
Either.
Absolutely. And someone said, what was the question before?
Work is
just the types of work.
Oh yeah, types of works. Okay, so pretty much anything that meets those rules. So I'll go back to the 3 types. So let's just, so 75 days, 60 days in the 2 years prior to the first day of PLT, plus 15 days during or after PLT. And did I mention that the reflective journal is only the 15 days? It's not the 75 days. Okay, so that's option 1. Option 2 is you've got a, and this is quite often a voluntary PLT placement for 15 days. You do that and then you enroll in a clinical experience module. So we're a bit user pay at the College of Law. If you're doing the standard work experience, there's no extra fee for that subject, and that's pretty much about 75 to 80% of our students. And then we brought this one in because sometimes people are working in non-legal roles. They haven't got their first job yet and they can't afford to take 75 days off unpaid or go, you know, it's a bit unrealistic, but they can take some leave and get a volunteer placement for 3 weeks, and you can do it a week, you know, it doesn't have to be done in one chunk. Then you just pay for 1 extra subject, Or at the moment, if you're really struggling, this is scheduled to go through to at least June next year. I think it's June 30 next year. So if you are coming to us sooner rather than later, it's 0 days, and we assign you a mentor, and then you just pay for that extra subject, which is the in-practice component. So it kind of depends. But if you can do 15 or 75, that's obviously the better option for you, better for your resume as well.
How long do the modules go for?
That's a good question. So
I mean, the clinical experience and the in-practice component.
That's a great. They're subjects, so they'll have start dates and finish dates. The so the clinical experience module is 6 weeks, isn't it, Jen?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah, 6 weeks, and then the in-practice component's 8, I believe. So
that's in addition to the 30 weeks.
Yes. So you can. So if you're a full-time student, and you do 15 weeks of coursework, you can be doing your 15 days while you're doing your coursework, but you can't actually enroll in the clinical experience module or the in-practice component till your week 16, which is technically after you finished all the coursework. So you would do 15 weeks plus your 6 or your 8 weeks. Now, if you're a part-time student, you can be doing your 15 days in the first 15 weeks, but you can actually start your clinical experience module or your in-practice component from week 16. So you can, as a part-time student, do it at the same time. So it doesn't add on. It's just that it's a bit much to add on that on top of full-time coursework. Yeah. So part-timers, you can get it all done at the same time. It's not going to extend it from. So it will extend a full-time student, but not really, if you managed it correctly, extend a part-time student. And it's probably is something. And we schedule it so that the in-practice component and then clinical experience is always available. Like for each course has that at week 16, so it's timed so that you'll flow on. You don't have to do that one that flows on from your course. You can do the next one, and all those dates are on our website. But if you're not sure and you want to sort of nut it out, just give us a call. We'll talk about that. Of course, if you're working remotely, there's a little extra form for us to say how you were supervised, and that's a bit more of a thing now. Okay, I'm going to just rip through a bit more information. The third checkbox is our CPE. This is a pretty easy one. We just say here's 10 online seminars and short courses that you'll have access through, and you'll get an extra certificate. It's a certificate of legal tech and business skills. Legal tech is such a thing. If anyone is studying a dual degree in technology, you will be snapped up. I can tell you that now. There's a lot of talk about there's some companies that can't hire enough people at the moment with technology skills as well as their law. That is a very, very, very employable degree. Well, any dual degree is, but that one particularly is. But also the business side of the practice of law as well. So you just basically work through those, do 1 or 2 a weekend, and you're done. And once you are a lawyer, you'll have to do CPE every year, and this is sort of practicing it. Sorry, was there a question?
No, but how long do the short seminars and courses go for? Like how?
Oh, you'll do each one in an hour.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And you have to do 10 of them.
There's 10. There's basically click here, read this, take a little quiz, read all this. You could whack out all 10 in a day or a weekend if you wanted to.
Easily.
Yeah, easy, especially if you've had some work experience. So they're really not onerous. I always say to people, just keep that in mind. Do either do like 2 big weekends or do 2 a weekend, and you'll get them done over 4 or 5 weeks. And you actually can get an extra certificate. But legal tech, it used to be just legal business skills, and they've added the legal tech in the last year, well, it was about the last year and a half. And it's something that we're the only provider that does includes this, and it really is a thing in law at the moment. So I believe I've heard a vicious rumor that our 2022 fees are not increasing. They did not increase in 2021 because of the pandemic, and it's yet to be officially confirmed by the board, but I believe that we're on track just to keep those. So again, if you're doing it depends on what work experience option you've chosen. So if it's standard, you just pay the main course fee. If you're doing the clinical experience module, you add on that subject. If you're doing the in-practice component, you would add on that subject. And our international student fees are not like university and double, they're just a little bit more. And if you're an Australian citizen, you can use the fee help. So fee help is, you probably a lot of you used HEX. Fee help is the postgraduate equivalent. It's a new bucket of money that you'll owe the government. So I've not long paid mine off myself. It's a very exciting day when that happens, but you can certainly put all your fees on that. Okay, so I'll flick through these. Basically, yes, we teach face-to-face in 7 locations. So Brisbane plus Cairns, Gold Coast, Sunshine Coast, Rockhampton, Townsville and Toowoomba twice a year. When, you know, and obviously we have to have, even under non-COVID situations, we do have to have minimum numbers, and it sometimes doesn't go ahead in Cairns, but quite often in the last few years it has. Very much part of the legal profession. So the College of Law was set up at the request of the profession, for the profession, by the profession, taught by the profession, assessed by the profession, and all our materials are sort of put together by the profession as well. We give you state-specific practice papers. However, doing the College of Law Queensland course doesn't mean that you can't practice in other states. You can transfer your practicing certificate between states. So if you do make a big move to another state, you can actually practice in any state in Australia. And of course, we're accredited by the Queensland Legal Practitioners Admissions Board.
I've just got a question.
Yes.
With the location spot, you said that Cairns is it can be a yes or no every year. What about Rockhampton and Townsville?
It's the same for everyone, yeah. So every location has to have minimum numbers. Like if only 2 people enroll, then it won't go ahead, unfortunately. And that has happened a couple of times in my 4.5 years at college. And it's just because, well, it's the cost of sending a lecturer up as well. Like it's a business, but mainly it's because it's not a good student experience. So what used to happen was, okay, Cairns isn't going ahead, unfortunately, unless you want to travel down to Brisbane, you're going to have to wait till the next one. But at the moment, if it didn't go ahead, we would just group you together and do it online. So it will still go ahead.
The online ones will always go ahead.
Yeah. If you were able to physically get yourself to Townsville, could you join a face-to-face?
Oh, yeah, you can do it wherever you want.
Yeah.
Sometimes people turn up in the oddest places. Like I've gone up to the Sunshine Coast sometimes before to meet that new group, and I've gone, what are you doing here? And it's a Gold Coast student, or it's a Brisbane student, or someone I've met doing it in Sunshine Coast. It's like, oh, mum and dad live up here, so I've just decided to come and have the week up here and let mum cook for me every night.
Usually people though that come from Cairns, they often come to Brisbane because they say, well, if I've got to go somewhere, I'd rather go to Brisbane than go to Townsville.
Yeah, and I've got friends, or my aunt lives in Brisbane. You can do wherever you want. Yeah.
You enroll in 2 locations at once. So let's say like enroll in Cairns and enroll in Rockhampton or Brisbane. So you have 2 applications for College of Law to be in 2 locations.
No, you would probably enroll in the one that you really wanted to enroll in, and then once you're enrolled, we have a student services team that keeps an eye on the numbers, and they will be in touch with you, and then they'll go, okay, so Townsville's going ahead, or there's online, what would you like to do? And you might go, you know what, my auntie lives in Townsville, I might zip down there, and then they would transfer your enrollment to Townsville. Or you might go, no, I think I'll go online and just stay at home and do it, business on the top and jammies on the bottom, and with the dog. And we would just move your enrollment to online. Jen and I are both dog mothers, so we always like a bit of action at home with our puppies.
Yeah.
So yeah, you enroll in the one that's your first preference, and then our student services will move your enrollment in discussions with you.
I don't imagine, Jacqui, they'd allow you to roll in two.
No, because you'd have to pay for two, so let's not do that.
Yeah. But maybe you could ring student services and just say, I've enrolled in Cairns, but if Cairns doesn't go ahead,
yes,
I'm prepared.
Oh, they'll be watching it. Don't worry. We have
Whatever.
someone that has those lists at all times, and
Yes.
you'll hear from that person on a regular basis, and they'll ring you and say, oh, hi, Brenda, look, Cairns isn't going to go ahead because we've only got 4 enrollments. Townsville is, or whatever it is. Are you able to, do you want to go to Townsville, or would you like to do it online? And it might be that the next online one isn't that week, or it probably would be, because let's just say Cairns, Toowoomba and Sunshine Coast doesn't go ahead, but the other 3 do. We would merge those into one group, and then that would go ahead online in that week.
So the good thing about, I mean, as terrible as COVID's been, in a sense, it's the one sort of good thing is we are doing more things online. So if if the course doesn't go ahead in Cairns, you can be absolutely guaranteed, you don't have to come to Brisbane. You can do it from Cairns,
Yeah, because that was the only option before COVID. It was like, okay, do you want to go to Townsville? Do you want to come to Brisbane? Do you want to go to any of the other of those 5
you want
locations?
To wait 6 months,
or wait 6 months, and now you can go, oh no, I'll just do it online. So it's not it's not going to delay anything. So that is a bit of a benefit. But don't worry, the student services will have, once you enroll student services, there'll be someone managing your enrollment and that location, and might be a lady called Fernanda, I think, but there's a few of the team there, whoever's sort of allocated, and you'll be hearing that from them on a regular basis. And us at the College of Law, Queensland head office, they're all down in Sydney, but myself and Anita Abraham and Anne-Marie David, our executive director, we're all keeping an eye on that list. Anita's checking it 4 times a day just to see, oh, there's another enrollment popped up. Okay, we're getting, and you'll see me doing LinkedIn posts and all that sort of stuff, And also, you guys tell your friends, now that you have this information, just say, hey, if you do want to do it face to face, let's all enroll and get that happening. So spread the word. And that's how Rockhampton got up and running, to tell you the truth. I was down there and with CQU students, and they're like, Jacqui, what do we have to do to get you guys to come and teach in Rocky? This is pre-COVID. And I was like, get you and 9 of your friends get together. And so someone did. It was the president at the time. He rounded up 9 of his friends and all told them they were doing PLT. And he's like, okay, 10 of us are ready. Send me a lecture. So we packed up our colleague Anita Hall and sent her up to Rocky. And that's how Rocky started. So feel free to be selfish and round up the peeps. But anyway, we've probably chatted enough about that. We do have career consultants. We've got 2 now. They're available to you as a College of Law student. We've got Susan and Ruth. Now, Susan, tomorrow night, I know that Brenda has already advertised this, but we're having a workshop for resumes. It's just for people in Cairns, Townsville, Toowoomba and Rockhampton, just for your locations. There's about 10 people registered at the moment. So it's going to be a really lovely, intimate little group. And you have got Susan, the undivided attention of Susan for that hour to talk about your resumes, and we're going to workshop a lot of things. So if you are on the job market or going to be on the job market in the near future, come along to that. If you can't make it live, just register and we'll send you the recording afterwards. So I know Brenda's got that, haven't you, Brenda? You've got that advertised on the
yeah, it's on the Intalia side.
Yeah, on the Facebook page. So check it out there. Yeah. Oh yeah, blah blah blah. We're the largest provider of practical legal training in Australia. We do all the graduate programs for all the big firms, but also if you do come to us, we're not just for PLT. PLT is the start of your law journey with the College of Law. We do practical masters programs. We do CPD. We do the practice management course, which is what you need to hang out your own shingle or be a partner. And we also do all the mediation courses. So College of Law, that's all we do. We train lawyers from PLT onwards. We don't do undergraduate, but PLT onwards. And we are here for the life of your career, and you become part of the College of Law family, and you come back and do whatever else you need to do. Now, I'd love my phone to be lighting up, going bing, 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 bing with all your LinkedIn requests. So I know that I am already connected with some of you there, but I'd love you to connect with me on LinkedIn. Follow the College of Law on LinkedIn and Facebook. You'll find out about free events you can attend. You'll find out about stuff happening in the profession, and just interesting information. And we do have a 1300 856 111 number for our student services team, or you can actually also email them. Another email address is support@collaw.edu.au, but enrollments basically goes through the same team. And you can definitely send me an email. If you need to talk, we can set up a time to chat. I work from home a couple of days a week, so sometimes I don't turn on my Jabber to get your phone calls. So if you email me, I can send you my mobile and we can make a time to chat, or I can ask questions of our student services team. But that's basically everything we have. I'm sorry, we have gone a little bit over time, but we do want to thoroughly answer all your questions while
Just got another question,
Yes.
Jacqui. The mediation courses that you guys offer, how long do they run for, and the cost of them? Or how long do they run for? And do you have to, can you do it whilst you're doing a law degree, or do you have to be a lawyer?
That's a good question. I'd probably have to look into that a bit
I
further.
think you've got to be admitted, Jacqui.
Yeah, I believe so
Okay.
too.
Yes.
I'm just looking
All right.
up.
And do they run for a long time, or?
Just a couple of days, I
think they're like
Yeah.
intensive workshop situations.
Yeah, I did one a couple of years ago. It was I think it was a Thursday, Friday and a Saturday or something like that.
Yeah, okay, great.
So they're designed to work in and around like lawyer schedules. So they don't run. I mean, our LPMC, legal practice management courses, they'll do an intense workshop. You go away and do stuff, and then you come back for another intensive workshop. So all our courses are designed in and around. They're for lawyers who are pretty busy and time poor.
Yeah.
So we do a day of mediation. We do a 1 day of mediation within PLT as well.
But I think, those courses, I think probably the ones you're talking about, Brenda, to become an accredited mediator, is that right?
Yeah, I think so, yes.
You've definitely got to be admitted
to do that. Yeah, first, okay.
And that's a great qualification to add on top of once you are admitted, especially if you are interested in sort of family law has a lot of.
Just going back to the alternative dispute resolution that you just mentioned, we do a day in 5 days. If you've done that as a subject within the degree, once upon a time,
it's just changed.
Has it just?
Yeah, our group that went through last week is the very last group that was eligible for. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So I think so all of the providers, we're all governed by the LAC, the Legal Consultative Committee, also the Admissions Board, and I don't know, all these committees made up of retired judges and very important learned people within our profession. And so the decision has been made that that's no longer an option, and it's just 1 day. It's 1 day. No, and you know what? You've paid for it. Just do it. And you've got really experienced people coming in. And again, it's like everything else in PLT. It's taking things to the next level. So you might have done it at uni, but
it's always good to revise, and you
exactly. We're taking it to the next level. We're adding those real practical skills. So yes, last week
thinking of it more from the perspective of how many days of work do you have to take?
Yes, yeah.
1 week.
If you were really struggling to get 5 days off in a row, there's an evening course that's currently online, and that chops that 5 days up, and you do just little bits on a Tuesday and a Thursday night. Before COVID, I would say that's only available in Brisbane, because obviously we can't fly a lecturer up there every Tuesday and Thursday, as much as there'd probably be some volunteers. But now that with that being online, there is a January option for that. If you were like, okay, I want to do the part-time course, but you know, we could, it's not ideal, but you can do you could do 3 days of your on-site this week and then 2 days another week. It's not ideal. And it would still be a Monday through Friday, but you might do a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. No, at the moment it would at the moment, Wednesday and Thursday have to be done as a pair, but it's kind of about to move, and I'm not sure where the days have fallen, because the 2 days of advocacy have to be done. So right now you could do Monday, Tuesday 1 week, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday an additional week.
Yeah.
But it's not ideal. So you always try and do the 5 together. But if you really not winning, then you come and talk to us and go, this is my situation, what can I do? And then we find a solution on a case-by-case basis.
So the part-time - evening course that's in January, the evening component is is equal to the 1 week of face-to-face.
Yes, correct. And it's snipped up into between
over 6 weeks or something.
Yeah, like 10 to 12 sessions. It kind of depends on the group.
Oh, right. Okay. But if you do the 1 week intensive 5 days, then you don't do the part-time - evening, you just do the part-time.
No. So because a lot of people, how the evening course came to be was that a lot of people graduate, get a job, and it's a bit of my bugbear. I personally think, this is Jacqui talking, not the College of Law. I personally think if you were going to do something for being admitted, why do you have to take holidays? You know what I mean? It's if you go to a conference or you go and do a training course, like if College of Law sends us to a training course because they want me to improve this skill, or Jen to improve, she's going to go on a risk management course for 2 days. She doesn't take leave to go and do training for her job. That is, it is actually one of my bugbears, but that's Jacqui's opinion.
Well, we probably all agree with you, Jacqui.
We probably look. I'm yet to find someone to disagree with me, to tell you the truth. But we had a girl last week, didn't we, Jen? That was on leave for 5 days to do a PLT.
That's not uncommon.
It's not uncommon at all. And look, fair enough if you're not working in legal. Some people are like, oh, okay, I've just got a retail job, or or I'm working in marketing or whatever, and this is my second career or whatever. That's fair enough. But if you're working for a firm and they want you to be admitted, that sometimes they'll make you take leave. So anyway, you start a new job, you don't have 5 days leave, so you either have to take it unpaid. So we snipped the 5 days into little bites, and it runs after hours.
Yeah,
on a Tuesday and a Thursday
I was wondering
evening.
about that.
About 5:30 to about 7:30 or 8 o'clock. That's a good alternative too for people who are perhaps just started a new job and don't ask for the time off.
So pre-COVID, that was only a Brisbane option because obviously, I reckon there's a few people that would probably like to zip up to Cairns for little bites, but that's online at the moment, and we do have a January start date that'll be online. So if you're looking for silver linings with COVID, increasing the accessibility for our regional students has been wonderful.
Yeah, great. Any other questions from anybody? You've answered them all, Jacqui.
Oh, I love it. Well, if you do get to tomorrow and go, oh, I should have asked that, just email me, jowen@collaw.edu.au, or even better, link with me on LinkedIn, send me a connection request, and we can chat. And I'm more than happy to talk. Sometimes people have specific questions specific to their unique circumstances, and I want to chat through that in private. We can certainly do that. So spread the word far and wide if you are keen to do that face-to-face course. When I was up there not so long ago, there was a couple of people that I was hanging out with that they were saying, oh yeah, I know I learn better in a face-to-face environment. That's what I would prefer. So round up everyone. Brenda, did you hear that I had to go into quarantine from my flight up? So I came up on that Cairns flight with with the reef pilot.
The reef pilot.
I was on that flight. Stop it. So I had to go into 2 weeks quarantine after my trip back. And then of course I had to go and get all the tests. I was nervously, I was letting Amelia know. I was like, by the way, I'll let you know. But obviously I came back clear. I didn't have any COVID because I was like, oh my God, I've got to go back to Brenda and Amelia and all you guys that I was hanging out with.
We'll all have to go into quarantine.
I would have put you all into quarantine. But anyway.
Glad it wasn't, Jacqui.
Yes, me too. Anyway, so you don't know where you're sitting. I could have been next to him. I could have been at the end. I mean, I had my mask on the whole time or whatever. So anyway, that was.
Anyway, he wasn't that infectious anyway. He'd been double dosed. So.
Yeah, and I'm double vaxxed as well. So I was pretty confident that I would be fine. But I said to all my colleagues, I'm like, oh my God, I've just put half of JCU in jeopardy. I'm single-handedly shutting down JCU. Anyway, I did have and I was texting Amelia and giving her the updates pretty much as it all happened. So yeah, it was a bit.
Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. I think everyone here has really.
My absolute pleasure. If you have any questions, let us know. Hopefully we're seeing you all either in person. We've got a wonderful lecturer, Graham Haas, on standby to come up and teach. He's a bit of a diver, so selfishly he would like to go ahead because I think he's going to stay for the weekend.
All righty. Okay. Thank you, Jen, also.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
She's on mute. Thanks, Brenda. Thanks, team. Really appreciate it. Talk to you all soon.
Bye.
Bye.